Town of Bay Harbor Islands regular council meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Yaffe?
Here.
Councilmember Chakotay?
Here.
Councilmember Sauber?
Here.
Councilmember Reed?
Here.
Councilmember Fuller?
Here.
Vice Mayor Bruder?
Here.
Mayor Leonard?
Here.
All present.
Great. All right. Request for withdrawals, deferments, and future agenda items. Anything?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
We were looking into the noise on the East Island, Marlene. Are you still looking at that?
We have, actually I have to check, but we have addressed each one of the generators on their own. There is still one outstanding, the rest of them have complied. So I would have to check what the status is of that. I know
Okay.
they did some sound attenuation on the interior of the room, but that did not quite satisfy it.
Okay, maybe we can have just a discussion on that to hear your findings. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none. Town manager's report.
Good evening. Before I start, I'd like to take a minute just to introduce Melissa Cruz, who's taken over for Alan Short as our new director. I didn't tell her she was supposed to make a speech tonight, but we'll let it go today. On January 11th, North Miami is going to be having a hearing at their Planning and Zoning Commission. It's to either recommend or not recommend that the White House Inn property be rezoned to accommodate a ridiculous amount of units per acre and a height of 110 feet. There was a meeting with the public just to to introduce it, and it was very negatively received. Most of the people, obviously from Keystone, were concerned about traffic and the height. The people selling the property are trying to get it rezoned to sell it. They're not interested in developing it, and that's really the crux of the issue. They were showing some drawings of what could go there, but it was pointed out at one point that if somebody new bought the property with the rezoning, they wouldn't have to build what they were showing as what they would do. So it really was didn't mean anything. So that was pointed out, and I would say it was. I know Commissioner Galvin was there, but it needs a supermajority to get passed and rezoned. So if anybody's interested, it's January 11th at 7 p.m.
But isn't part of that, the land there, part of that would have to be when you drive, because the entrance and exit does impact Bay Harbor, and isn't some of that property belonging to us?
We have the entire bridge, where you see the I want to say fence, the sidewalk and the retaining wall. Where the retaining wall ends, that's our right-of-way. That's where it ends. And as you know, only the council can approve any curb cut through that piece of property. You can't put a curb cut on King Concourse unless the council approves it.
So they would have to come before
They would
us?
have to come here, unless they came up with some other scheme to bring cars in and out.
And are they also aware of that they would have to come to us?
Their attorneys are very well aware of that.
Ron, on that same note, I mean, that's a good point you made there, but also, has it been pointed out to them that anything that they end up doing, our whole thought would be that if they end up zoning and you can do 11 stories or whatever else they want to do, any pilings that would have to be put in for any kind of structure, I would assume would do damage to the bridge and the causeway. I mean, you're drilling pretty hard and pretty deep right next to the part of the causeway.
I couldn't tell you, I don't know. That'd be something that we could find out, during that time.
I'd like to just have, maybe if Randy can just give a general idea of what he thinks might happen if there's any effect, because anything we can do to just show that, we would be potentially against anything of that size right there would be helpful.
I think just the traffic is a big deal, because there's no way to exit and exit
That's
and
the obvious
entrance.
one. The structural issue is something in addition that helps.
And you said it's January 11th?
That's, yeah.
At what time?
7 p.m.
Thank you.
On January 9th, Miami Shores has their tomorrow, actually, their council meeting is, and they'll be considering the pool interlocal agreement. It had come up, they postponed it just for some more public input. Their meeting got rescheduled to tomorrow, so I'll be attending that meeting also to see what happens. And that's my report.
Great. All right. All right, council reports. We'll start on Councilmember Tricochet. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone, number one. I did attend Snow Day, and for those of you who went, it was a wonderful success. I would like to ask if next year we could look into maybe getting 2 of the large slides, because there was a lot of interest in that. Maybe see if it is an item that makes sense financially to do. Obviously, we have to look at that. But thank you to all of the staff who worked so hard. And the residents were really excited who were there and really appreciated it. I think being able to have the market the same day was also really great because people were able to kind of move back and forth, and it brought around some people that maybe wouldn't have gone to Snow Day or maybe wouldn't have gone to the market and introduced them to that. So having those coordinated, I think, worked out really well, and if we can look into that, doing the same next year, that would be really good. For those of you who go to the 98th Street Park, Ron informed me today that the hole in the fence in the back that was opened has been closed, and the neighboring buildings have been, asked to please be cognizant of opening up a hole in the fence again. So for those of you who have small children and were concerned or reached out about the hole that was there and the safety risk, it has been closed off. And so we really appreciate the staff taking care of that. Other than that, Happy New Year, and I'm really excited for all the good work we're going to do this year.
All right, Councilmember Reed.
Happy New Year to everyone. I also attended the meeting for the Keystone Owners Association about that property because one of my promises for this term was mitigating the bridge traffic, and a lot of our constituents share that concern with a big project there. So thanks for keeping us up to date, Ron. Appreciate it. I attended a few league meetings in the interim since our last meeting in December, the Snow Day, a couple of farmers markets, and I just wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. It's a calendared event since 2015 where we ask everyone to support law enforcement by wearing the color blue. And if you have a blue light bulb or strand of lights left over from the holidays, you can illuminate it at your front door to thank law enforcement for keeping us safe and all their efforts. So, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I think briefly, Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome aboard, Melissa. She's not taking over for Alan. She's our new CFO. And, welcome aboard. We look forward to great things. We don't want to put you in any box or anything like that. This is the type of council that likes to hear from our professionals, and if you have suggestions, what we're doing might not necessarily be best practices in certain areas, and if you can bring something new to the table, you're always welcome. You're quite fortunate that you have Ron as a manager, because he's an excellent manager, always open to suggestions, and we encourage you to not only do your job but flourish at your job and make us look good. So welcome aboard. I had the opportunity to attend the Florida League of Cities Legislative Conference, which was, just in a nutshell, was primarily focused on saving home rule and letting our cities work. And my colleagues brought to my attention a piece of legislation that could affect home rule, which we're going to address. And that's one of many items that are going to be debated and discussed during the legislative session, which starts this week.
Tomorrow.
We're going to be working to protect home rule and fight for local self-government. So, we're going to do.
All right, Josh?
I'll keep it very short. Just first of all, happy and healthy New Year to everyone. Hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. I will say this. I want to remind people the farmers market is there every other week. Please visit it. I don't want to have a chance, I don't want to have the risk that we lose it because people don't realize it's there, and that is slowly happening. We are losing vendors because the vendors don't have customers, and then we lose customers because there aren't vendors. They will continue to make an effort to bring people out, bring vendors out. Please visit it. It is a fantastic, fantastic event that provides a great service to the community. I highly advise everybody take a look. It comes back in 2 weeks. Please remember, it is out there on Sunday right in front of Town Hall. Bob?
Yes, thank you. Happy New Year to all of you and everybody out there watching on TV and internet and so forth again. Hope your holidays were good. I did want to follow up on what Josh said. I walked around the market over the weekend, and there were a lot less vendors this weekend than there had been in the past. So I hope maybe had something to do with the cooler weather, but hopefully as the weather warms up again, more vendors will come out and more people will come out and frequent and take advantage of the market. I was at the Miami-Dade League meeting in December, and we've got one again this week on Thursday evening, which we'll be attending, and a number of us will be in Tallahassee at the end of the month and beginning of February, lobbying on behalf of the town and looking for funds on behalf of the town for different projects, as well as Isaac said, defending home rule, which is really important because I think the legislature, again, this session is going to try to take away as much home rule powers as they can. So we all need to be aware of that, and those of you who are interested, in communicating or contacting your legislators or other legislators, do so. Look at the website, our website, look at the Florida League of Cities website. There are lists of people that you can contact if you have concerns and reach out and help your town. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody. I also have gone to the farmers market, and in that vein, I wanted to talk to the council about doing an event with the farmers market in which we do a sort of, for Valentine's Day, an art show or a small, like Coconut Grove, but a very small art show in conjunction with the farmers market to see if we can bring some kind of event with it to bring more people out and do some advertising. Maybe we can advertise in the neighbors section and try to get some more movement for the farmers market. It is one of the only, events that we have that brings our community out together. So I wanted to know if the council will approve, maybe some advertising in the neighbor section.
You want to know something that would work, in my opinion?
Tell me.
Live music.
That too.
Even
We
if it's
talked
not like
about
a big band, or just even
Right.
a guy playing guitar, a trio, a little jazz, live music, just everybody stops and kind of just
Funny enough,
gyrates.
we're going to talk about a place to do that later on today.
Right.
No, that is a very good idea. It's a very good point.
But I think
It's
that
not a lot of
right.
music, guys
No,
wanna
right, but
play.
I think that we need to.
But I'm 100% support what you're saying.
we need to try to add
Get the word out.
something and work with the farmers market. I did talk to her, and she said that, she's been giving back the money to the actual vendors because they're not making any money. So she's really doing this because I said, Liza, they think that this is for you a moneymaker, and we don't really, support things that are moneymakers. And she said, Stephanie, this is not where I'm making my money. I'm really giving back the money to it. It's really a break even for us. We're not even breaking even at this point. And I said, okay. And this is really one of the community things that I think is important. It really is one of the things that brings our community together, and I think it's something that we should be supporting. And you're right, bringing music, bringing art, anything that we can do to bring, face painting, I don't know, once a month do something, and advertising it, and each one of us can come up with whatever we come up with. And throwing, and not a lot of money, but a little bit of money towards it, I think would be...
I think it's a good idea too. Like you say, if you have a kids event, then the parents have to come. During snow
Right.
day,
Yeah.
there were so many people, and so they were going and buying refreshments from the
Right.
farmers market. It was good.
We have to
Right.
find a way to market it better. The neighbors section just doesn't work anymore.
I don't know, maybe
Right.
flyer, I don't know, I'm gonna work with Bridget and maybe the school, putting the flyers in the school and going to the Parks and Rec, and having,
Ken Eskin had mentioned doing a
Yes.
car show.
was just
And we
thinking
all
that.
like that, remember?
Did that a number of years ago.
And I know that's,
Remember
no,
that?
just last year he
Right.
came.
But I'm just saying, different, between all of us, we can come up, and we all have different resources, to come up with different things that can add, it's every other weekend, even if we do it once a month.
Once a month,
Just something to add a little extra flavor to the market to keep it going.
Where did we leave off on the car show? I know he was
I
going to
met-
get with you guys.
Yeah, I met with Ken, he gave me all his contact information, really was just waiting to get through the holiday season. And we're lucky that we have somebody in the building department that's very familiar with car shows. Ianides, she's big into the Mustang. We actually had the Mustang car show here
Yeah, we
a few
had.
years back.
Yeah, we did.
It was nice, so
It was very nice.
So let's
we'll have something to you.
do it on the day of the farmer's market, so we can coordinate the two together.
That'd be nice.
Let's try to do it in
We can get with
coordination.
the local businesses too and tell them,
Of course.
hey, like open up on a Sunday, maybe you can do like a little,
Lunch on
yeah,
Lunch
like
on
open
campus.
tables
Just try to-
outside,
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that it?
Okay, Bridget, we're on.
Okay, well, hold on. I'll be very brief. Happy New Year. And just to set the tone with music, one of the things that...
Are you going to sing?
No.
Okay.
He
breaks out a banjo, we're in trouble.
Actually, one of the things that I'm working on with the manager is actually an actual show for next winter, which will be actually a symphony. We've been approached by a member of the London Philharmonic and who has a relationship in Bay Harbor, whose family's lived in Bay Harbor for many years, and they want to do shows in Bay Harbor and Surfside next December. Right before New
That'd be
Year's.
great.
So we're actually working on that, so we should have something maybe in the next month or two to present to council. And if all goes well at the new year, the stroke of the next new year, and maybe in a new park, we can actually have a symphony, which will actually be really beautiful.
Now we have hotels for them to stay in.
Yeah, right. No, and that's actually one of the things that was discussed. So that being said, we're looking for a really good 2018. So moving on to public comment. Do we have good and welfare? Okay. All right. Kathleen, are you come? Okay. All right. Come on up. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. And I have to tell you something. I am so proud of all of you, especially our city manager. This town looked amazing over the holidays. I was so proud to drive through. Surfside looks like it's too many yellow. Bell Harbor too blitzy. We were class. I have to tell you, we looked beautiful. I hope thank you to you and JC and to the administration. We really looked good. The baskets, I asked Ron if we could change the colors to Christmas to red and green next year on the poles. We think about it. We have a 5K run coming up, 10K run coming up January 21. I want all of you to put on your britches, as they say in Ireland, and get out there and help and run or volunteer at my table. Parks and Rec is going to take a table, and we're going to give out water and bananas, like we did the first one. Remember the first one we did, Isaac? That was the 60th anniversary, and it was really successful. So we're going to make it really good, and we have good business people coming to our business district now. I see a light at the end of the tunnel in this town. It's really, really, really looking good. I like the chocolate guy. I met him today. He's handsome too, isn't he, Marlene? And you have the Pilates, you have the Pilates, you have the Argentina Tango, you have the gym, the new CrossFit. I mean, we have really a good business district coming up, and that's all thanks to you. Thanks to Ron, thanks to Marlene, and all, for making everything happen. So, it's good. And don't forget my Parks and Rec guys. We have pizza with the cops coming up February the 1st, and then we have our next Park and Rec meeting coming up January 21. Sorry? 17th. Oh, excuse me. Woo. And we got a few things going on. We're going to have a disco seniors night. We're going to have the seniors dancing and carrying on. Hopefully they'll meet somebody and get out of their apartments. I hope you're listening there in TV land. So that's on our agenda. So thank you for all the good things you do.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have...
Jordan, before we continue with public comment, one of the things I thought we were going to go over, I wanted to see if we can get a report from the town attorney, because Frank had something he wanted to report back on the conversation.
Absolutely. How about seniors night? It's not seniors, it's not seniors.
It's disco.
Disco seniors.
That's a whole different, that's a whole different level.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I can't possibly beat that.
Oh, yes, you can.
No,
He'll be out there with
wish
a
I
disco
could,
ball.
But I would be happy to attend. So I was asked a simple question with regard whether the town could take by eminent domain a piece of property, and provided that it is for the public use, which can also have some incidental private use as well, but provided that the primary use of that would be for public use and the public good, you can certainly do that.
Okay. On that basis, what I would like to see is whether or not there is a consensus from the council to move forward to taking a look at potentially the cost of acquiring the property, the parking lot across 1111's parking lot. I'm sorry, of acquiring the parking lot of 1111 and potentially using that as our new town hall and police station.
Let me...
You're talking about the entire lot or a portion?
The entire lot. We would also, as part...
4 lots.
I understand, but as part of that, I would like to have, as part of the negotiation, trying to see at the same time, working out something so we can either lease back or sell back a portion if we condo it, or lease back the number of spots 1111 needs, so that we're not removing the spots from them. They would end up getting covered parking, they would get what they need. But if you remember when we talked about the new police station, we talked about the new chambers and all town hall, the cost to refurbish and retrofit this building was prohibitive. We were looking at $800 plus a square foot. Went even higher than that. It made no sense. And one of the major problems we also had at that same time was the fact that we would have to find a way to have a functioning location for the town hall during the construction, which increased our cost even more. In fact, that's one of the things that they told us was going to be one of the major costs. In this event, if we took the property across the street, we could maintain this property in full function while the other one is being built, and at that point, flip over there, sell this property if we wanted to make back a good chunk of the money back. Depending on how we work out the deal with providing parking for the 1111, it could actually get back a lot of the money as well. And on top of that, we would be providing, we could, depending on the design, another level or 2 levels or whatever we want of public parking for this side of King Concourse. There's also the potential of using it for other public purposes, another floor or 2 above that. But really the question becomes whether or not there's an appetite to take a look at what the cost would be, because I think that's actually going to be a lot better financial deal and long-term the ability to build a better facility for the town.
So you want us to buy that property?
I want to look into the cost of what we think the estimate would be to buy the property. Right now, my understanding of that property is nothing. Right now, there is a controversy between the current owners. I'm not going to get involved with that right now, as far as air rights to the property. And so, that being said, that controversy gets thrown out the window. If I'm not mistaken, Frank, please correct me if I'm wrong, in the eminent domain, it would quash all the issues as far as air rights ownership as well, correct?
The town could take the entire property.
Exactly.
In all respects, as long as it pays fair market value for it. It would need to also accommodate the parking to that condominium building, as you talked about before, so that the fair market value would not also be alleged to have diminished the value of the condo building itself.
Right.
And I think that's what you discussed.
Exactly. And so
I don't want to talk about specifics right now, but what I'm saying is you could take through eminent domain, provided you pay fair market value, all of it.
Right. And then the key here is we might be able to do everything we want to do at a lower cost. It's a question of whether or not we can, what the numbers are, but at a lower cost, not interrupt our facilities here at the moment, sell this property later on or whatever else we decide we want to do with it at the time. I'll leave that how we want to decide financially. Provide the parking that 1111 needs anyways, because nothing's going to happen over there while they're fighting, and they're going to fight for a long time with regard to air rights. So they don't lose anything. In fact, they probably get covered parking out of it. We get the facility we want, and we don't have to worry about the retrofit over here.
Two questions. Before you entertain taking it by eminent domain, can we just ask them if they'd like to sell it?
Well, the issue would become, yes, you can always do that, and that's part of the discussions, but one of the things here is that you have to deal with, on that sale, if I'm not mistaken, you've got the condo building, you've got 100%, you're going to have to deal with the air rights issue. By doing it through eminent domain, all that gets squashed, and it becomes simply an evaluation.
There must be some kind of a buzz then going around, the whispers.
My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the 1111 building, they were trying to sell it, but the air right issue prevented them from being able to do so.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm
So
saying.
it's a
We solved
win-win
that
on both
problem.
sides.
Exactly, we solved that problem for them, let them deal with whatever they need to deal with that. But the concept here was that when we were talking about the numbers, originally, I think we all thought, let's see what we can do with this building, let's see what we can do. When those numbers came back at that rate that we were talking about, it made absolutely no sense. So what I'm asking is whether or not we can take a look and see the cost.
This is, you know, this is not on the agenda.
Thank you.
This is not really a town council matter,
Attorney's report, right?
or attorney's report, or, I don't know if it was, what was it, this is...
He asked
At the last meeting, I actually asked him, during that meeting, I asked him to come back so we could move
I think
forward.
this is important
So it's
enough to
actually on
make
the
it,
agenda.
Let's make it an
let's
agenda
this
For the next meeting.
and have a discussion and have all the information and know who the owners are and let's dive deep into it, because it sounds like it's interesting and it could be for the greater good, but I don't think it's like a discussion that we should have under either council matters or the attorney's report at this
So we'll
point.
come back
But
and-
certainly, I'm interested in devoting time to it appropriately on an agenda.
What do you mean by that? Do you want to, like, engage a study that costs money? You say you just want staff to look into
As far
it?
as what you want, as far as the additional negotiations, discussions with them would really be the key. And Frank, you would be guiding us how we would end up doing it.
Yeah, I would think two things. One is a determination as to whether the council has an interest in it, and if so, whether the council wants to engage an appraiser to determine what the fair market value would be, which we could certainly do, and then the overall cost to do that as well, if that's something that the council would like to do. Certainly, we can engage all those folks.
Why don't we come back at the next meeting and kind of have an idea of what the initial costs are? There was an appraisal done, not even a year ago probably, and maybe we can just get an idea of what type of number we're looking at, and then the cost of maybe a future appraisal, because it would have to be more recent. And so let's have that next month, and we can kind of kick the tire a little bit, you know? I mean,
Sure,
I'd
I
like to
will
see the last appraisal.
If you want to, I'm more than happy to provide a memorandum on the point and have Stanley look at it as well.
Yes,
Stanley
please, yes.
Price.
Okay,
Thank
all right, so we're going to do that. All right, we're going to continue on with good and welfare. Francis Newhut.
Is there anything else, any other direction for me
As long
on
as we're
that?
put on the agenda for next month, but as long as at least at that point, if you're going to look at the old
I'd
appraisal.
like to see cases, like just, very succinct, cases, the outcomes of cases, what, merits the judge bases their decision on.
Sure,
Because
and I-
just hearing the facts that we just heard, and I don't want to belabor this discussion, I want to move on. Like if I was a judge and, I was hearing our fact pattern versus, the people that are the targets of the eminent domain, I would judge in favor of the folks that own the property because, we already have a city hall, we have a police department, hey, retrofitting it is very expensive, okay, you know what, that's not this property owner's problem, that's, your problem.
Yeah,
Sure, I'll
well,
be very happy to.
That's how I would apply.
I'm glad you're an
with
accountant, not a lawyer.
information I have.
I can tell you, we've already looked at, in the memorandum that we'll issue, ultimately we'll have many different cases in which, one, the courts have found it to be acceptable, and two, where the courts have found it not to be acceptable.
All right, cool, that information would be good information for me because I'm not a judge or a lawyer, so.
All right. Mrs. Newhut.
Francis Newhut, 1060 King Concourse. I'm here to ask this evening if we can put on the agenda,
JC?
if we can, what was that? To put onto the agenda to discuss, because the Church by the Sea has been approved, their site plan, and although it hasn't been knocked down yet, I look at the calendar, and I think they're going to knock it down pretty soon. There's no discussion of what's going on there. And I noticed with the store building, which no one even knew that they were knocked it down. And Ocean Cadillac is probably the last one of worthwhile of keeping, which is gone now as a historical anything. But I think we need to talk about the BDS movement and its affiliation to the Church by the Sea. And it was over a year ago, it was on February 8th, 2016, where one of our council persons, and it was approved by all of you, about the BDS movement and how this Church by the Sea may possibly be affiliated. We never had discussion about it. I watch TV with the Israeli channel, and the BDS movement is more than you think. And I am fearful for the neighborhood here. We have a comprehensive plan which doesn't look like we're following, where we approved this Church by the Sea. The comprehensive plan says that it has to be compatible of uses, relationships between permitted uses, regulation of the number of uses and ancillary usages. Well, we also found out that in there's going to be AA and other programs, which is very nice for adults. But you have to remember again, we have a liquor store not more than 2-3 doors down. As far as the laws and regulations go, you were supposed to get a variance, or bring it up as a variance, which we never did. So there are issues with this particular church and with the BDS movement, and I would like, if possible, for us to have discussion on this, since we never did. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Leo?
No, that's for item 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. So, no more public comment. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Anyone want to pull anything? If not...
Item 3, please.
Item 3, okay. Anything else? All right, if not...
Hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on a second. Item 5.
Item 5, okay, so... Item 5 is... Okay, anything else? Hearing none. I guess we don't... Oh, we don't need a poll vote. So if we could just have a motion, a second for everything other than 3 and 5.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, number 3.
I'd like to ask that we schedule at least a December meeting. This past December, we had to meet twice, and I think it's easier if we schedule it. I've always been a proponent of scheduling all 12 meetings, but this past December, we had to meet twice on an emergency basis. I personally, had plans. I wasn't able to attend either one of the two, albeit brief meetings. But I think it's important. It's been a long stretch. I've almost forgotten what y'all look like.
Well, I mean, I for one, I think that we should have meetings on, we should have our 10 meetings, and then if we need to have a special meeting, we'll have it as an as-needed basis. I mean, I remember this council used to have many more than 12 meetings a year. I think we've had, averaged, one special meeting to maybe 1 or 2 a year, maybe at most. I think last year was the most we've had. So, I mean, personally, I'll defer to my colleagues, but I
see where, I see where Kelly's going, and I understand there's, obviously this last year was a little unusual that we needed 2 additional meetings, and I can see where we could use the additional meeting. The problem, though, I think, is that I don't think it's fair to staff for scheduling their holidays and everything else. I tend to agree with the mayor in the sense that if we need it, hopefully we'll try and plan it a little bit more in advance. If we start realizing come October or November early on that we're going to have too many things in November, then we should plan the December meeting. But, because I don't like the last minute emergency ones, like you said, you weren't able to attend. But I don't want to kill that staff's holiday plans.
But remember, it's the second Monday, so maybe it'll be the 8th of December or the 10th at best, and the holidays, are usually towards the end of the month. Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah is usually even closer to Christmas, so.
Can I interject one thing?
Certainly.
I'm sorry, but the problem with that is that when people want to apply for certain things that require a public hearing, if we just have it for show and then we don't have it, then they're under the impression that we need to have the meeting. So keep that in mind when you make your decision.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I'll make a motion that we have a December meeting scheduled.
Okay. Hearing no second, it dies. All right, can we
Thank
have a
you.
motion for approving item number 3, please?
I'll move it.
All right, can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry,
This,
you want to speak on number 3? All right, all right, come on down. Oh, is this,
Yeah.
no, is this,
Number 3?
yeah, but you're,
Oh,
yeah, but the old paper say I don't want to.
oh, wait. No. I'm giving them to you.
Okay, on this particular agenda here, first of all, it's required in our town charter that we have, and it says here under section 2.07, regular meetings, not special meetings or the type of public hearings and all these other things you've had. The town council shall be held not less than 10 times each fiscal year. I counted 9. And not only that, you had special meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning. What's that all about? I mean, first of all, like, not everyone is here for the month of December and can plan ahead with your special meetings and your public meetings and all this other stuff and take off the month of December. It's not fair to your council members nor the citizens of this town or residents, because we don't know what's going on with you guys. And like I said, not all the council members are in attendance. The last meeting that was there was 9 o'clock in the morning and you had 5 people. You know, I'd like to see a pretty face once in a while come to our meetings. So, you know, either follow your rules and regulations, or else, you know, what's the story here? Do you get brownie points for not having 10 meetings or something?
this is, the agenda item says 10 meetings. I'm not...
Okay, but did you count how many annual meetings you had for the year 2017?
With all due respect, I normally don't interject, but I have to admit,
Yes.
we had a hurricane.
September
70% of the town evacuated. It was on 9/11.
But you were able, with the hurricane,
Yeah.
hello, and in the middle of December, you were able to have a special meeting, a public hearing, but there was a hurricane. How were you able to have that? And unfortunately, there were people.
I'm not, just don't, okay, all right.
Well, it's not fair, and it's not fair,
Okay.
and it's not fair. And that's why we don't have people coming to your meetings, because nobody wants to come to them anymore.
All right, thank you for your comments. All right, we have a motion, a second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right. Okay, one opposed. Number 5.
This is really just a comment, because I was looking at the agenda item report, and I wasn't necessarily sure that I was crazy about, this appropriation for this joint bus study, but I voted for it. But the appropriation was approved was it the appropriation right, we approved the proposal from Florida International University for this transportation study on June 12th. And today, almost 7 months later...
I'll tell you what happened.
No, I'm just curious because, there seemed to be some urgency at the time and
Yeah.
What happened shortly thereafter, the city attorney for Surfside left, and they were without legal representation.
Okay.
It's not like they gave them time, and so they were looking for a new city attorney, new representation, so it couldn't move forward. We couldn't get to an MOU until they got on board, and that's what it took so long.
Okay. So if we approve this today, I will
And we're
vote
moving
for it.
forward from here. If you approve it, it's just, really, I thought this was a formality, because you guys, approved it.
No, I
So-
just thought after we approved it in June that the study would have gone forward.
I-
And so I was just curious, that's all. I haven't talked to you about
I
it.
was told that we should bring this MOU back. I thought we can just move forward.
Right.
With the understanding that the council already approved it. But they told us to bring this back, so.
Right. And do we know if Surfside and Bell Harbor have approved?
They already approved it.
Okay, and once we approve this,
How
do we know
long?
how long it'll take to get the study done by FIU?
It's gonna be, well, you know what, I'll let you know.
All
I
right,
have
no,
to find out
yeah,
exactly
if you could
how
just
long
check
it'll
on it, I'm just curious.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Judge. Thank you for the
No,
I was
update.
surprised
Appreciate
when I saw this on myself, actually, so, yeah.
take. I didn't want to put it back on.
No, I know.
No, I just wanted an update, that's all.
Yeah. All right, can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
And a
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, number 6, please.
Item 6, consideration and approval of an ordinance on second reading amending Chapter 16 of the Town Code to permit payroll deductions for payment of purchases of credited service for past military and police service.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending Chapter 16, the Town of Bay Harbor Islands Employees Retirement System of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands Code of Ordinances to permit payroll deductions for the payment of purchases of accredited services for past military and/or police service, providing for suitability, providing for clarification, providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
I have a
Second.
motion, second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, poll vote.
Councilman Fuller.
4.
Councilmember Yaffe.
4.
Councilmember Chakotay.
4.
Councilmember Reed.
4.
Councilmember Salver.
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder.
4.
Mayor Leonard.
4.
Unanimous.
Item 7, consideration and approval of an ordinance on second reading, amending Section 18-22 of the Town Code to require property owners to underground the service lines.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending Section 1822 entitled New Construction and Rehabilitated Structures to require property owners to underground the service line or lateral from the building to the utility poles or underground facilities, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing an effective date.
All right, have a motion
I'll move
and a
it.
second.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, we were just handed an amended ordinance. Is there a change? Was that just a typo or a scrivener's error?
Not for that one.
No,
Yeah, wait.
Not for that one.
this isn't, just not to be confused with undergrounding the perimeter. This is the interior from the lateral, which would be the line from behind the house, down the pole to your house.
To your house.
No, I think she was just wondering because we have a separate print.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know why it was there either.
No, okay, the wrong report was attached to the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
It's not the right ordinance.
So it's scrivener's
Oh,
error.
sorry.
Okay.
That's the same one that was passed on first.
Yes.
So-
This just codifies something that actually has been going on for many years, but
Yeah.
this way there's no confusion.
We have public comment. Francis Newhut.
Okay, this particular ordinance that we're bringing up about the undergrounding, first of all, it says with new construction, and it's not limited to only single-family residence, multi-dwellings, commercial properties. This has been in the books forever. What I found is when I went to a DRC meeting and someone asked if they had to underground, and they said no. So is this something new, or does this mean you can break this law too? We're not following our laws, if you haven't noticed. And also, I noticed that, okay, so we have this new law, which is not really a new law, but in one of the agendas for bonuses, you're putting here as a bonus for making the business district another height, another 10 feet, that one of the bonuses for doing that, to get the 10 feet, you're saying you can underground electrical, telecommunications, and other overhead wire and pole facilities. What kind of incentive is that? That's a law. These people have to put this stuff. So this is no bonus to anyone. And this was required even when anyone who does new construction of any kind, they have to underground to the telephone poles. So this is nothing new. And maybe we should follow our laws so that it wouldn't, so that instead the easements and whatever it is, or the right-of-ways are not missing anymore, we can find the poles to put them properly. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. All right,
Can
we
you
have a
get
motion.
clarified?
No, I think you need to clarify that,
Sure.
please.
Just quickly,
What are you gonna
we're talking about from the pole to the house, new
Right.
construction, from the lateral into the building?
Yeah, we know
That has to be. What's being confused here is, for something later on, would be if somebody wanted to underground the lateral, the entire block, which,
Right.
to underground, Florida Power and Lights is, you can't do the porpoising of the main trunk lines.
Right.
Because it's a reliability issue. They would be willing to underground an entire block, which is over 1,200 feet.
Right.
That was the trade-off, so just...
And I would also just note, because there was some uncertainty, I should say, in the past as to when the requirement to underground
Yeah.
arose, depending on, what type of renovations and construction you were doing. So this codifies
Right.
what had been a policy.
Right, more administrative.
Right.
All right, so we have a motion, a second. Poll vote, please.
Councilmember Yaffe?
4.
Councilmember Chakotay?
4.
Councilmember Salver?
4.
Councilmember Reed?
4.
Councilmember Fuller?
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder?
4.
Mayor Leonard.
4.
Unanimous.
Number 8.
Consideration and approval of an ordinance on second reading, amending Section 2311 of the Town Code to allow for additional height in the B1 Business District.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending the town's zoning and planning code to amend Section 2311C to allow for additional building height in the B1 Business District, provided a developer participates in the town's public benefit program, establishing a public benefits program for additional building height, including specific public benefits desired by the town, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
I'll move it.
I'll second
I have
it.
a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Can I just say there was a couple of lines that were included in this one, that were included on the first reading. We copied the wrong ordinance. And it's basically when it talks about up to a maximum of 75 feet, which is the maximum height, there was a clarification included that says, except for those allowable rooftop structures listed in subsection 231211, because there's a lot of exceptions to the height, like the elevator tower and the stairs, and that wasn't clear. And we also, the town attorney also added on A2 a small portion that says for one or more of the following public benefits, because it could be several public benefits, so we don't want to keep it to one.
Of course. Okay. You had a comment?
yes, I do. Okay, so we have, I voted for this the first time. I think it's a good idea. I have a few little concerns now. So we have this new language added, clarified. I called Mr. Simone today and we had a brief discussion, and I just wanted to make you all aware of some of it. It was suggested to me by a lawyer that there may just be some minor changes in language that would make it better, and I went over the changes with Mr. Simone, and he's pretty much okay, but he may want to explain what he meant by that. And one of them was the public benefit and the importance of establishing a clear and close nexus of the actual bonus and the benefit to the town. Also, the issue, the bullet about the parking, that maybe there should be some more clarity in there, maybe referring to the other places in the code relating to the parking trust. So I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I just passed those comments along to him. And also, I had assumed that maybe our land use special counsel, Mr. Price, had looked at this. So apparently he didn't, but Mr. Simone said that Mr. Kasdan helped him and looked over it. So I know we all had some meetings, and Mr. Kasdan is the attorney representing the owners of the property that, you know, kind of proposed this idea and is looking to, you know, propose something to us, one of these bonuses. So I just wanted to get all that on the record, and maybe, Frank, if you can clarify those things as we did earlier.
Sure. One, I wouldn't provide it to you if I didn't think that it was acceptable and enforceable as it is with the revisions. I did not rely upon Neeson Kasdan. I had presented it together with everyone. He made a couple comments to it, to which I included the following comment, which was one or more of these items. 3, with regard to the nexus, I think that's more of a discretion of the town council, and specific to any other contributions acceptable to the town council, provided that the contributions serve a public purpose. In my discussion with Ms. Reed, I certainly had explained that in the context of zoning and land use, I use that as a catch-all so that any town council, whether present or future, would be able to make such a determination. And the reason for that is the case law is very clear, and it's what we relied upon with regard to the items that could be exceeding 75 feet in the appeal, that there's no area of the law in which the town council is afforded more discretion than in planning and...
Pardon me,
zoning
Frank, did you mean
land use.
65 feet?
No, I think, well, 65 and 75 feet with the...
Because I think what you just said, above 75 feet, did you mean above 65 feet, the code?
Well, we have two provisions of the code. However, the former case dealt with, well, was anything allowed upon the rooftop beyond the height limitation? I can't recall in that one whether it was 65 or 75. With regard to the parking, I didn't feel it's appropriate necessarily to include a requirement for the parking trust. The parking trust is very clear what it's for, and perhaps there could be an issue where you don't want people putting money into the parking trust as a public benefit under this. And the reason for it is they're either going to provide the parking or not provide the parking, at which time they will have to put money into the parking trust. And I don't think that's once you have to do something under the code, I don't see how doing something under the code would then in turn be a public benefit, because you're already required to do it. With regard to the nexus, there were two cases cited by the attorney in North Miami, who's a property owner here too, but those cases don't necessarily rely upon this particular. I know those cases very, very well, and I think one could perhaps believe that they are, but in my opinion, I don't think they're the case at all. I think that the way it's written presently, assuming this is something that you bought, that you're supportive of, you may or may not like or want that. That's certainly in your legislative powers. But certainly with regard to including bonus height as we were tasked, I believe that this properly legislates that change, if that's...
Just to clarify though, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, 75 feet as our code is written, so this is all in the context of the code.
Correct.
We're not going over 75 feet because we have a charter.
Correct.
75 feet inclusive of the base flood and the rooftop things, but I think you just simply misspoke. You must have meant between 65 and 75 feet, because everything is a maximum of 75 by charter.
It's 75 by charter except for items that are permitted on the roof. For example, the elevator landing.
But when we talk about this, we're always saying that 75 feet
correct
is our maximum.
Correct. And actually some of the additional language that we included in there is very specific, that it's only up to 75 feet in height, except for the allowable rooftop structure. So we're saying 75 is 75, except for those structures that are allowed.
So the bonus is a maximum of 10 feet from
correct.
65 to 75.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, just to
I
clarify.
apologize if I wasn't clear, but they're getting no more than you could on other areas of the town.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, so that being said, we have a motion, a second, the public comment. Mrs. Newhut?
Francis Newhut, 1060 King Concourse. Again, just to revise, the business district, our FLUM map, the two hotels are not in the business district. Okay? They're not in the business district. The properties that we're talking about now, that you're trying to get tax-free or with state funding and things like this, are Church by the Sea, which is a very large parcel of land. It's over an acre. And also this one at the Storabee. And that is approximately 11 lots, and only one of them is on the water, and that's in the residential. And you are telling me now that they can go 75 feet, and as an incentive, which I can't find as an incentive to let them have affordable workforce housing. I mean, did we do a study on this? Because there are people who are in the business, okay, and you just taxed us 156% this year in the business district. And as I recall, we have a lot of affordable housing in our neighborhood. And we have even a realtor on the second floor of Bank of America who helps us with that. So I don't think that affordable housing or workforce housing should be one of the incentives. Instead, we should care about our community and the new developers that have come here and put fortunes down, millions of dollars, condominiums worth millions, and now you're going to put affordable housing. If I were a developer, I would never come here again. It's disgusting what you're doing to our business district. You are destroying our business district. There's nothing in that business district. I don't care what people are saying, how great it is. I have property on the business district, and there's not one restaurant there that hasn't gone out of business or is going out of business because of this community here. So thank you very much, and you are not helping the community. We should be getting parks.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Snohut.
Well,
All
that's
right.
the incentive.
Thank you.
They should be giving us parks,
Thank you.
not affordable housing.
Thank you, Mrs.
Which they go to jail for.
Thank you, Mrs. Snohut. All right, so we have a motion, a second, and we had comments without further discussion. Poll vote, please.
Councilmember Fuller,
4.
Councilmember Reed,
4.
Councilmember Salver,
4.
Councilmember Chicoche,
4.
Councilmember Yaffe,
4.
Vice Mayor Ruder, 4. Mayor Leonard,
4.
unanimous.
Number 9, please.
Consideration and approval of an ordinance on first reading, amending Chapter 16 to provide for 5-year cliff vesting schedule for police officer members of the retirement system.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending Chapter 16, the Town of Bay Harbor Islands Employee Retirement System of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands Code of Ordinances, providing for a 5-year cliff vesting schedule for police officers, members of the retirement system, providing for severability, providing codification, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Poll vote, please.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Before we vote,
Yeah.
This was a contract issue.
right, but there's no financial analysis, no budget impact on this agenda item report.
We've put it in, it's been in the last pension board information. I'll provide it to you.
I mean-
We've already accounted for it in our budgeting.
I got you.
It's been for a couple of,
But more or less, does anybody remember?
I don't...
Melissa, do you remember?
I think that Isaac,
Too early to start blaming Alan?
Started like today.
I told you. I
Isaac.
warned you.
It's unacceptable.
I asked Alan, it is a requirement to provide the impact study, and they are working on it. It will be ready for second reading.
So this is classic, putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse?
So it'll be before next month?
Yeah, Alan has already contacted the
Okay.
actuarial.
Okay.
The actuary.
Can we defer this until we have the information of the fiscal impact?
Well, usually we
We're
provide
going
it
for?
prior to second reading,
Prior.
on most of these.
Prior to next month.
Prior.
Pass it now.
I mean, we can always vote
If
no.
there's an issue.
All right.
How about this? That it won't go on second reading if we don't have it? Is that?
Yeah,
fair?
we should
Okay.
have
That's
it
fair.
in the next week.
Okay, all right, so, do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay, a motion, second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Poll vote, please.
Yes, Councilmember Yaffe,
4.
Councilmember Chicoche,
4.
Councilmember Salver,
4.
Councilmember Reed,
4.
Councilmember Fuller,
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder,
4.
Mayor Leonard,
4.
unanimous.
All right, number 10.
Discussion and direction with regard to council members Fuller's request to design a amphitheater and passive park at 95th Street and West Bay Harbor Drive. We're asking for a budget of $156,000 to build a park with 2 seating areas, covered seating areas, grass, landscaping, irrigation, to be connected to the community center. That be a fenced lot, and be done with funds from our reserves. If you remember, the first proposal was in the neighborhood of 800 and something thousand.
Right.
I think
Brought it down
we
just a
can build
little
that park for...
Yeah, we all talked about the fact that was high, and we appreciate you coming back with this number. I think, in fact, what we talked about last time was we were all looking at maybe doing it for $350. This is obviously even less than half that.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, this is a perfect use of that property right now. This doesn't commit us to anything long-term. If 5-10 years down the line, we decide we want to do something else with that property, we can do it. But it's a wonderful use rather than just leaving an open lot. I think it's an incredibly inexpensive enhancement to the community center, and it provides a much-needed park and potential music and movie venue for the town.
I'm very excited about it. I think it's a good idea. I think the price is right, and Ron was telling me even more details about the enhancements of the landscape and how the Monarch who had been using it, contributed cash instead of just their requirement of paving it or sodding it so that we don't waste that and spend it again. My only reservation is, and now we're hearing that we might have some symphony activity there. That's wonderful. And my reservation is that any stage cannot point towards the Monarch Hotel nor the St. Regis. And the bigger stage in this image points in a northeast direction, which is good.
Right.
Because I'm telling you now that noise, when it travels,
Right.
it goes up.
No, we had talked about that originally. Ron and I talked about that when we first started talking about this. Everything here is going to be facing away from the residents.
But there are two things here. What about the little box?
I think that's more control center. That's not really the main.
No,
thing.
actually, either way, it's designed that it can be used back and forth.
Yeah, that scares me.
And the symphony is really, it's a 6-piece string quartet.
Yeah, it's
to do
not a
chamber
full-
music, just so you know.
Yeah, we're talking
I
about
agree
at the
with
Boston
Kelly.
Church.
But
Every
we
once
need
in a
to
while,
find
most of
somebody
the
who
music will be
knows
going
that
towards the
sound.
away from the
We
residents.
got to make sure that
I did tell you, I was the noise officer in 1994 at the open-air venue known as, I've forgotten already,
I mean,
on
I
Third
would-
Street. It's a problem. Sound goes up and it travels like 4 or 5 blocks.
Yeah, but I would assume that part of this would have, you would hire or retain like a sound some type of engineer that focuses on sound to make sure that when this is built, that the sound is going to travel.
Anybody who comes to play would be bringing their own equipment.
No, I meant when you
You want, as
design.
Jordan said, you want to
Yeah.
have that study or whatever is
Yeah.
necessary before you build it.
Right.
So that we will, be aware of the effects of the sound traveling
Okay.
before we build it.
How to mitigate it as much as
Right.
possible. I mean,
If
look,
it has
there's
a
going to
little
be
roof on
some
it, that'll
sound. No, that amplifies even more. There's going to be some sound in special events,
Right.
but if we can minimize it, focus it away from the residents.
I'm just saying, hire the professional that studies that, so that way it's done correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a couple of comments. I think this is a great idea. I support the idea, and of course, budget-wise, I think we're certainly within the realm of normalcy.
Right.
The only thing I'm concerned about is, the ordinance that we just passed on first or on second reading regarding the business district and, bonuses and bonus height and stuff like that. This is the exact type of facility, I think, that would qualify for that bonus. And if we can get this built by Yenham, by someone, with someone else's money, we could save the town $156,000 and get it built not only maybe on this lot which is interior and might affect our residences, but maybe on a lot that is waterfront that will affect our residences less.
There's no waterfront lot that we're going to.
Well, there's no waterfront lot today.
No, of this size.
But I mean, there might be a potential for a developer to give us a waterfront lot.
We understand that, but not at this size. And we know, I know which one you're obviously we're talking about, but I agree, that's something that we would potentially.
The size of that lot that I'm talking about in this lot is only like 1/4 of a lot difference.
Which lot?
This is a lot and a quarter, the one on
West
Gateway,
Fairfield.
Oh, okay.
across the street from Wyndham.
What this provides, though, let me tell you one of the reasons this is inexpensive as opposed to something else. This being connected to the community center provides the automatic bathrooms. We don't have to
Right.
provide and build facilities.
No, and I thought of that. That's why, I mean, I'm definitely not against this, but I think,
For other things, I agree, we
Right.
can always add more,
Yeah.
but this one is a cheap, easy way to do it because we have the facilities right there. That's the intent.
I mean, I can tell you, a lot of people ask, I hate to say it, but a lot of people ask for green space. And, and it's great to add parks. I'm all for parks, everybody knows that. But just some simple green space would be nice and refreshing for the town. It's something that we don't really have,
Can I just say
Yeah.
something? Every month we do
Yeah.
the movies on the green.
No, I know.
And if you've been at those movies, those speakers are pretty loud and they face out. Usually the sound dies off pretty quick because you're into an open space. And this is going to be very similar.
Yeah.
You're going to have a nice... It's not something that, it's planned and it's a event.
I do have one
As long as
comment,
it's
Ron.
not at 11 o'clock at night.
The one thing to seal the deal for my vote, please, for the Oaks, please buy oaks that are a little bit more grown than the...
No, we're going to buy
I think
substantial...
the oaks you bought originally were originally the size of the pencil. I mean,
We're not buying oaks.
Actually, I stole this from 98th Street. So-
We're not buying oaks. There
No.
won't be oak trees.
Please, no, there are oaks in here.
We're going to change that to something more substantial.
Is there
Oh,
any way to
oh,
see
you're
a
taking the
rendering
oaks
of
out?
it?
Well,
We're
that's
gonna do-
the best,
we
yeah,
need
that's
bigger
what we're
trees.
planning, so that's part of the whole thing. The design would be part of the budget, but this is the general design.
Perfect.
All right, so you already got rid of the oaks. All right.
Use your imagination.
I had to call around, I was like, all right, there's 2 boxes. This is the box.
Okay.
A bunch of circles, we have public lines and stuff.
What are the lines?
Kathleen Kennedy.
Kathleen Kennedy, 9180 West Bay Harbor Drive. It would be nice if this would have come before the Parks and Rec, just for information, because it's all new to us. And I think, if I'm out of line for saying that, forgive me, but, it's something to do with parks, and, it could have been brought to our attention. I think it's I've always wanted a pool for our kids that can't dip their feet into the pool, but I think Stephanie, working on our Miami Shores. Can part of this be a veggie garden? I think, Kelly, you're on next, what is it called, next door? A lot of the residents want a community garden. So if we can make a little area in this place for the kids to come and have grow the little flowers or the little veggies or whatever, I think it's a good idea. Everybody's asking for it in the community. Are you on next door? I know you are, Kelly, but I don't know if all of you are,
I saw
but
that.
you should read it. And everybody's asking for, and the seniors would supervise it. I would definitely supervise it because I love plants. So if that could be a consideration, a part of that land that we own, the citizens, that we could have a little veggie garden right next to the community center. So, let's do something for our kids. The seniors like to grow flowers, so they like to grow their veggies. They can come and water them. We just need a storage area and all that good stuff. But I would like serious consideration given to that. Okay? And it's news to me, so thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I was on the Environmental Impact Committee before I was on the council, and we explored that community garden ad nauseum. And it was hard. We had to find a location. That's back when Colonel Weinstein was on it. We were looking at the top of the garage. We were looking at parking lots and taking up a space and putting like a raised soil area and doing all that. And we discussed it for so long, and then finally the 7 of us looked at each other and said, are we all going to participate? And everybody said, no, I have my herbs on my balcony, or I have something at my house. And we put it in the newsletter. Marlene, do you recall that? We put it in there, and we tried to get... Yeah, and so we just, at that time, we couldn't get any interest. So now we have social media, we have Nextdoor. So I would say, and even Sugar Fertel had commented as the former Parks chair, and said, don't reinvent the wheel, go back and get the minutes from Environmental, from Parks. The gentleman from the City of Miami Beach Community Garden came and he laid out the whole thing for us. So I would go and look at the pitfalls of the land has to have a particular sun, it needs a certain amount of space, and they're not known for being really beautiful. They're just known for producing produce.
Right, so if you want to see one, there's one on 70, I think it's...
Surfside.
No, there's one on, a good one,
there, too.
across from Temple Menorah. There's
It's like 73rd and Dickens, near Parkview Island.
And it's not pretty. I mean...
I think there's a case going to the Supreme Court in Miami Shores over someone with a community garden in the front yard.
That wasn't a community garden, that was their own private garden.
I'm sorry, yes, I should say an organic produce garden.
I don't know, we can have staff look at it. My
I
concern
just
would
don't
be...
think this space is going to...
Yeah, I mean...
I have no problem with the community garden, but this...
We don't have a lot of space there.
We're compacting too many things into the one small space here.
Yeah, but Kathleen, take a drive down there to Miami Beach, right by Parkview Island, and you'll see that it's pretty large, and they have it buffered between 2 hedges because they're trying to hide it.
All right.
Before you call on Leo,
Yeah.
Jordan, if I may,
Go ahead.
I think Kathleen Kennedy is 100% correct in that procedurally, when something like this comes before the council, it certainly should have been vetted through the Parks and Recreation, since this is literally Parks and Recreation. We might need to consider something procedurally that we can put into place. I mean, just like we wouldn't really discuss a development project without it going through the P&Z board, I think something like this definitely should be vetted through the Parks and Recreation Committee procedurally. And I think, if there's something that we could think of, maybe on the staff level to say, hey, look, this might fall under Parks and Recreation, and create an agenda for them, prior to it coming to us, because you're right, it is a little bit embarrassing for us to be discussing something right in your wheelhouse prior to you hearing about it.
We have no problem with putting anything before. It's just when the council member, when they request something on the agenda, I put it on the agenda.
I mean, maybe there should be check the box. Hey, should this go to, the Finance Committee? Should this go to
it's not a bad
Parks and
statement, but let me tell you, but it's something that probably should have been, and I agree with you, but we've been talking about this for months.
Yeah.
This is not news. This is,
It's an old item.
Kathleen, I'm just saying, Kathleen, we've in fact, actually, we've had multiple times at the council meetings, and you're right, but it would have been an even better suggestion, 3-4 months ago when we first started talking about this. So my point is this: I have no problem for future things. Plus, the design, once we advertise, part of the design is going to be looked at by Parks.
Well, certainly we should recruit the Parks and Recreation
For the design, but
we talk about the final design.
In the past, we've deferred to the committee, and I think this is one of those things where, if the council so chooses to take it upon themselves, or they want to defer it, the council already made the decision. So, I think that when it gets to design, it should go to the committee, and the committee should have
Well, they're
input.
having their,
That's how they did 98th Street, by the way. 98th Street was originally by the council, and then it went to the Parks and Rec Committee for the actual design, and then it came to council. And we could mimic the same thing, and they'll have a say in regards to the design, which is really important. Hopefully, they'll get the oak trees back.
well, they're having their meeting on the 17th before this comes back to us, so I think it
It's
should
going to be
go.
another meeting.
Well, they're having a meeting on, Park and Rec is having a meeting on the 17th. This should go to them for the design and for discussion, so that it'll come back to us in February with their comments and what they see in, and let it come back to us again.
But we don't want to delay the advertising and start getting the bids at the same time. So the design is one thing on there, but that's, what I don't want to start doing.
Right, you
is
don't wanna-
We have this thing where we keep pushing it down month after month after month, and it becomes, it's one thing, I have no problem with you guys deciding part of the design, and that's what we want to rely upon you for. But the idea that we're going to push it to them for design, they come back and we say we like something, we don't, then send it back to Parks for a recreation thing, we have another thought, and then send out for bids. Meanwhile, the residents don't have a park for a year. Let's get this is an easy one to get done.
You're going to
Let me-
advertise for bids. I mean, this is
That's what I'm
just
saying,
to
as
approve
long
the
as we're,
concept.
as long as we're going to bids.
Can I remind the council that we do have a resolution for what goes to the committees and how it goes to the committees, and that the council has as part of the resolution that they will send what they want to the committee, but they have a right to discuss things at the council level without going to the committee, because there's many recreation things that are brought here that never go to Parks and Recreation. There's many other items that never went to Parks and Recreation. So it just needs to be a little clear,
Yeah.
not just left to staff, because it's really left to the council,
Right.
not to staff, when the council wants to send something to committee or when they want to discuss it at the council level.
No, the council chose to deal with it.
Yeah, just to
Somebody
follow,
can make a
you've
motion
seen
to send this
some
to committee.
stuff on this already.
Well, but what if
Design.
it comes back with a community garden? Well, we don't want an amphitheater, then we're kind of going in circles. I think, don't be offended, Kathleen, because like Marlene said, they don't, you have the ability to generate your new ideas and bring them here, like a lot of the other committees have. But since this was in the pike for so long, and we sort of have agreed on the amphitheater concept, I think, we don't want to waste your time.
Yeah, but the committees, if I may, can, their purpose partially at least is to make recommendations to the council. I mean, they can make recommendations to have a community garden or something else there, and if it's not something that the council is interested in, then we thank the committee for the
And
efforts.
since
but-
we're here now, we can probably, we've shared this little bit of feedback that maybe the community garden, should look elsewhere. That'll help you and not waste your time.
There's just so much chatter in the neighborhood for it, that's why I brought it.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think it's a
Right,
great
seen that.
idea. You got to find the right spot.
All right, so we have a little bit more public
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
So let's finish with the public comment, and we'll come back. So, Leo, come on down, you're next.
Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Leo Carnera at 1050 and 93rd Street. Happy New Year. we already discussed, you guys already brought up a lot of points that I was going to bring up. I think it should have come before Parks and Rec, you know? I think that a park, although it's a great idea, and I have 2 kids under the age of 2, and it's I lose a lot of sleep, we do have a lot of parks. You know, I think, and I know you guys discussed this for 4 months, but then again, since I came to the committee, it was probably sometime in October or September. Then we didn't have any meetings because of the hurricane. And then I think we got confirmed in October. Then we had November meeting, and then December we didn't have a meeting because it's the end of the year. So Parks and Rec, since it's news to us, we didn't get a chance to kind of discuss it. I think, although you guys are, and myself, I mean, I'm happy that you guys even discussed the idea of bringing more parks and more things for their citizens. But I think it's like, hey, if the price is $156,000, what I'm asking is maybe give Parks and Rec, we're going to meet in the 17th, give us a chance to have this meeting to come up with some ideas, the best way to serve the community with $150,000. And it doesn't necessarily, it could be the amphitheater, and we could talk about it and discuss. It could be a vegetable garden, but the thing is, it's for the community, it's not for me. So the way we would go address our citizens and our residents will be do something silly, not silly, but cheap and ineffective, like Survey Monkey. And then, you know, put out on the newsletter, hey guys, here's a survey. We have $150,000 and we have this piece of land, what you want to do? Amphitheater with some green space? Would you like to do a vegetable garden? Or would you like to do other? Or a thing for suggestion. It doesn't cost anything, I'll do it myself. And I think once we get some feedback, yes, I know it's been a couple more months, but I'd rather spend $150,000 that we're going to use than spend it, and then 3 years down the line is like, man, we're really not getting the use that we wanted for. And I just want to let you guys know, I did pass my general contractor's exam on December. I started studying September, and then I passed it. So
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
And I think the focus isn't necessarily the appropriation of the funds. I think it's the purpose. And I think what we're trying to do is fit, you know, the things that we can't. I mean, to be quite honest, we had snow day, you know, and we've had some of our events in the street. And I think this is kind of going to be able to match us up with what we've already spent money on, and be able to kind of all work out, because unfortunately we can't, you know, we don't really have open space. So I mean, we have some limitations here. So I think this is actually exactly what a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. But I do think, you know, Parks and Rec can add some input, obviously. So we have one more public comment. Francis Newhut. There we go.
I'd like to thank you for not having another toddler park. This is a very good idea. It's very strange when I go to these toddler parks and you see grown-ups without children. You think something's wrong there unless you're a little old lady who's reading her newspaper. So this is a good idea. I have to disagree with you, Jordan, on green space. We do have a joint use agreement with a beautiful park right across the street from this park. We have a contract with the school to use that park, and I think we should integrate the two of them because it would make it beautiful for our community and our town residents. The other thing is, rather than ignoring Councilman Salver, we got this summary of TDR sales. And one of them, believe it or not, was for 41 TDRs at $30,000. That equals $12.3 million. Okay, this park is $156,000. Where is this money going? And if it's not from this particular property, these 2 hotels that were just put up had purchased government TDRs, and I think the one closer to Bal Harbor, they owe us $1 million in government funds. It's up now, it's built.
They paid already.
They paid. Okay, so we should have money from that to help pay for the park. So before we start taxing our community, maybe we should look into this TDR program that was originally for this purpose. And also, the last but not least is maybe this time we can have a dedicated sign to Doris Morano. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, so did we have a motion and a second for this?
I'll move it to move it and send it out for bid.
Just to make a comment, there's also park impact fees as well.
Yeah, we understand.
Funding,
Yeah, they're not all, yeah, we know it's coming from reserves, but the reserves is not all.
I'll second it, but with the understanding that we are going to get a sound person to look at this.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, that's no problem.
I don't want
The
to
reason that the cost of this is so low is we're going to be the general contractors on this.
No, I
A certain
understand.
part of it will be bid out, but certain parts, that's how I got the pricing for it.
And we
By
are
the
going,
sounding.
JC, you are still going to bring it to Parks for,
Yeah, so we'll go to Parks
Design and all that stuff. That's right.
and you will hire an engineer that specializes in sound, so
Yeah,
that
so we
way,
just talked about-
acoustics or whatever, to make
To
sure.
minimize as much
Yeah,
as possible.
yeah, because, I mean, we don't want to end up with having a problem like that after the fact, so. All right,
Even though it says that the appropriation is from the general reserves fund, our TDR money is in the general.
it's in the reserves.
And so it goes.
Right.
Yes, you are correct.
Let me
It's
ask you
from-
also on top real quick, the 156, are you going to need any more for purposes of the sound engineer as well? Because if you used to have 4 or 5 grand for a sound engineer.
If it's something ridiculous, I'll let you know. we have an
why
engineer
don't
that
we
I know.
just add?
Let's go, we'll do
This is
one.
a budget, this is not a
Right.
final number.
Right.
we can come back with that.
Authorize him just so he's got.
Right.
I mean, I don't think it's going to cost more than 10,000,
Yeah, I don't
and
think
he
so
can,
either.
he can
Okay.
appropriate that on
Correct.
himself.
Okay.
All right, so all's in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, passes
Before we
unanimously.
move on, Ron?
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you before, do we have, or anybody, do we have an estimated opening date for either of the hotels at this point?
The Monarch would like to open up tomorrow. but,
I'm sure they have
They have a
both.
few things. I think they're about a month or two.
No,
No,
they're-
that's closer to like 2,
Weeks.
maybe 3 weeks.
Oh,
They're
okay.
weeks.
Okay.
Okay, well, a month.
Yeah,
Right, they put-
the other hotel, they were shooting for March, but I don't know that that's realistic.
That really slowed down a lot.
Right.
They're working on the interior mostly.
Slow, fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, just consider, they're almost opening at the same time, and the other one started 18 months ahead of it.
Thanks for the garage.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, number 11.
Consideration and approval to extend the contract, BHI 128 with LMK Pipe Renewal in the amount of $250,000 to continue sewer lateral lining to reduce the volume of infiltration that comes into our sanitary collection system. Randy included a memo.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All right, poll vote?
Councilmember Yaffe?
4.
Councilmember Chicoche?
4.
Councilmember Saber?
4.
Councilmember Reed?
4.
Councilmember Fuller?
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder?
4.
Mayor Leonard?
4.
Unanimous.
All right, number 12.
Approval of a contract to award BHI Contract 188 to perform lining of a sewer main to Miller Pipeline Corporation in the amount of $29,337.50. There was one stretch of...
The last one,
What was
done.
this Barney Crislip looking at, 10 times higher than?
I don't know. It's probably
Seems a
working
little
Bell
bizarre.
Harbor, I don't know.
This is the last one.
This is it.
This is it. So, all right.
I'll
We have
second
we have a
it.
motion, and a second, any discussion? All right, poll vote, please.
Councilmember Fuller?
4.
Councilmember Reed?
4.
Councilmember Saber?
4.
Councilmember Chicoche?
4.
Councilmember Yaffe?
4.
Vice Mayor Bruder?
4.
Mayor Leonard?
4.
Unanimous.
Just to be clear, this is the last of
No,
the
I know
main
it's
to
the
be
last.
lined. You know, everything has been lined, but it doesn't mean
No, I know, but it's the last one, but...
that's the last of the
Time for the
last.
first ones to start, Ron.
Don't say that, please. Number 13.
Item 13, discussion regarding amendment to the town code to establish additional lighting requirements for new multifamily developments.
We started doing the lining with Steve Brown on the council. Right?
This-
Am I right?
Just point of information, the Serrano, which I think was the genesis of this, has lowered their lights
Yeah.
with a dimming system, finally.
Do you have any photos before and after?
No, I just know if I'm driving by, it's...
Yeah, they come before, yeah.
I think we can,
It'll
on
be
the way
nice.
home tonight, just,
Yeah, it's much lower.
Noticeably different.
yeah, this is pretty cool.
So, all right, any, Mike?
Mayor,
Yeah.
nice to see you all again. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year.
New Year.
We looked at your lighting code. It's way out of date, and the criteria is not very good or comprehensive. We're suggesting that you did a little white paper to analyze what we have on the books, that you should do a little bit more something we can fine tune as we move forward. But like Ron said, the genesis was, we have these new projects and you have LED lighting and all these new things that are very, very bright. So we need to calm it down.
Yeah.
So we'd like authorization to move forward.
Yes, please.
All right, so,
I have a couple comments.
yeah, sure.
Do you think it would help if we sent this to the P&Z and let them put their 2 cents in? Will they be looking at perhaps a lighting plan, like they look at a tree plan?
I don't know that they'll help. I really nobody that's a lighting expert on the panel.
But I would send them a copy of the white paper afterwards.
Let's keep them in the loop anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because, these are things they'll be looking at in a plan, and, they may want to come to a meeting. Also, not just the side of the building, but the rooftops are
Yeah.
important too.
Yeah, of course.
That's there.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Okay, great job.
Discussion requested by Councilmember Reed regarding parking regulations that allow underground parking garages.
That's a heck of a job. All right, Councilmember?
Well, during the storm, I think there were 3 of the newer buildings whose underground garages flooded. And, it's happened before to others. I think probably the safest one is probably one of the older ones, 10,000. But I'm just, wanting to initiate a discussion with you. I'm very concerned about it. And I know that they rely on pumps, that rely on generators. And, we're looking at the generator noise, which is kind of an unrelated issue, but the generators come on once a week to make sure they're working, but lo and behold, a lot of generators failed during the storm. So I think we need to look at the health, quality of life for the town. We don't want a bunch of flooded buildings. Future residents who are going to live here who may not know about it, but they're just, it's a problem. And I'm wondering if we should look at changing it so that we can prevent this in the future, changing the code so that they have to either, be up higher, it won't be over base flood elevation, but I'm just looking for some ideas or, to direct staff to take a look at that and what can be done.
Well, the barriers worked.
They worked.
Yeah, we didn't have any, Ron, do we have any properties that had barriers that did not work, where the water got through?
That I couldn't tell you, but I know there was a couple of properties, as Kelly said, that flooded out.
Yeah.
And there were mechanical issues. One
Right.
generator wasn't hooked up, one
Right.
generator didn't come on, and they kind of got caught short. I didn't see anything during the flood. I didn't, they were flooded out or not. I didn't see anybody with barriers up, and I'm not sure if the Riva had them up.
No, we
put them
walked
up
around
after.
afterwards as well. There were several of the buildings had them up, and they worked. They worked on almost all the residences. There was one, if I remember correctly, I think the design wasn't great. It left itself a little more exposed outside before the barrier, so a lot of rain just came naturally in. But for the most part, the ones that were sealed, there was no issue. It was
One of the things, and I don't know if Mike can talk to this, is FEMA might be heading in that direction anyway towards towns that are in coastal areas. They might be looking into, our insurance rating system is tied into this.
As part of the National Flood Insurance Program and the community rating system, it's allowed right now. They're allowed. But if I had take out my crystal ball, I can tell you that they're probably going to be looking at that in the future. And I don't know exactly when they'll change their mind, but it's something that I know it's on their
Well,
radar.
why don't we reach out to them and let's be a little...
I've already spoken to them because we recently, last year, we went through the annual recertification, and as part of that, you give them elevation certificates for new buildings, and the new buildings that had their COs at that time, the Riva was one of them for a number of years ago, and then the park, the club, what's it called? The one in front of 92nd Street Park.
The club.
Yeah, the club.
Ivory.
No, the club.
Oh, the club, the interior
Yeah.
building?
And so they were like, oh, you guys allow parking below grade? And we're like, yes. It has to happen. The developer provides, what they call it? From an engineer, it's the
Elevation certificate?
No, the elevation certificate, but along with that, a certificate of flood proofing, that they have to do that.
Right.
That they have to, it has to go in there. So, and they're okay with that. They were like, all right, we accepted it, and that's fine. But I think in the future, they're gonna be looking at.
But like for
changing it all.
example, the new Wyndham has barriers. So here's a building that's brand new, and they're going back to the barriers. So, which I would think I mean,
That's
sometimes...
for rain, but what about tidal rise?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The barriers...
Right,
I
we're not
mean-
gonna be able to prevent that.
Well, you don't have the garage.
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's something that we can look at,
The
but...
private property owner.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I think it would
We
behoove
legislate
anyone
zoning.
that owns property to protect their property. I mean, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's intentionally trying to not, protect their property.
Well,
So,
I think maybe
And we evacuate
the way
people, that's
to
what
do
we-
it
that's our
might be
job.
more
Right,
enforcement.
yeah.
No, I think the way to do it here is, because I think the problems that you talked about is several of the buildings that weren't prepared because their generators weren't working, or they weren't hooked up, or they got sloppy with that.
Right.
And maybe it's a little bit more of enforcement as far as, and maybe we have to beef up the regulations as far as if they leave it and let it flood, if they don't maintain the things and it floods, there's a significant penalty, because it does create a problem. We have a mosquito breeding ground and so forth when you're just pooling water for a long period of time. So maybe that's the way to do it. So you give them a financial incentive to make sure they maintain their own generators.
right, well, they should be maintaining their property,
Well,
absolutely.
but the
Right.
problem is some of them don't, so this way at least we can incentivize them to do so.
We're going to have some follow-up on this.
We'll look at that?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so...
Wait, I know this is not really the good and welfare time, but I just want to throw this out there just to get feedback before because we're ending a little bit earlier than I imagined we'd end it.
If you want, sorry, we got done so early.
Let me run that just by 5 minutes. One of the things I think we might, talking about, legislating, I've noticed on the West Island specifically that some of the newer homes that are being built are just like monstrosities that look like prisons. I mean, they're just like solid concrete, they're built up to the property line, and I think it's really, really time we as a council sit down and give direction to the Planning and Zoning Board as to what is acceptable aesthetically and what isn't. I mean, there's one house in particular on 97 on the,
The one you're talking about,
which is just, I mean,
There's one across the street.
I think it's just gone beyond the imagination.
They're about the
The
White
problem
House.
with it is this.
No, it's still under construction, and I'm, in defense of the property, it's still concrete. But it is, but it's this new design that we make with that, like that.
The one not on the
Like the
water.
tube, it's not on the water, it's
Right,
on,
I know
it's
what
on a
you're-
dry lot.
Yeah, I know which one.
It just has like really no creative design features about it at all. And I think it's, I think we really need to reconsider what we're permitting on the West Island.
We also, I'm sorry, we also need to look at the landscaping on some of these new...
Or the percentage.
No, that's the point. I mean, there's the one near Stephanie, there's not a stick, a bush, or anything in the front of that house. I mean, there's nothing.
There are some flowers hanging off of the house.
Well,
If you can get behind the wall, there is actually something.
I know, you can see from behind the wall, but I just wonder about that, and because
honestly,
planning and zoning
I
is
can
always
tell you-
looking at landscape
point.
plans
I mean-
and the depiction of the way it's supposed to look when it's
The newer
finished.
homes, when they go up to their regular height that they're allowed to, they look more massive. I see it over in Keystone, they're knocking those houses down.
Well, they are more massive. They're
Thank
trying to
God,
get more
they're
square
like right on top of
footage.
each other.
But if you had some more landscaping, then...
It's not even landscaping,
Then
when
it
you
wouldn't
go
be-
up to the second story,
It's-
you should have to pinch in because
It's not
you're
about-
right
Maybe
on
that's
top of
something
each
that we
other.
need to look at also.
Landscaping helps,
Yes,
but
right.
it's not just, it's just the property values have gotten so high, they have to put additional square footage.
I
is
mean,
the only way.
Michael-
I understand that landscaping only helps, but there
Michael
are
is-
other things that have to be done.
Michael is still here. I mean, if the council so desires, and if you don't, you don't, we'll move on. But maybe he can look into legislation in other municipalities as it relates to single-family residences and what, how we can just maybe be a little bit more conservative as to what they can build on a single lot. I know there are some double lots that are just huge. They look like multifamily properties, but there's one in particular right on 97th Street that I'm seeing being built, and it's next to another new house that looks a lot softer and it's a lot less less impact than this other one, which is on a single lot, and it just...
Is that the one on the corner?
No, it's not on the corner, it's in the middle. It's actually next to...
97th, there's
It's on
two.
97, it's next to Daniel Mizrahi's house.
There's
Who
two.
just moved in.
Right.
And it's it's just west, one house west of his.
There's two new
and
ones
it's-
on 97.
It's just this
two on the
huge
corner of 98th
concrete
and West
edifice.
Broad, those are...
I don't think it doesn't fit. It's not that it's modern or not modern or,
No,
it's
there's just too massive.
it's just too massive.
They
Are you
built two
looking at
condos.
architectural guidelines? There was a lot of talk of that over the last few years, like, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean,
We don't have
I-
any.
I- yeah.
That's not, honestly, the P&Z does a very good job at these things, and when they look at them by themselves, they're not bad looking.
You
There's
think that
the last
our-
one, the last one that
sorry.
really, there's one in mind that comes to my mind that was really unbelievable. But since that time, they've seemed to gotten better. Like if you, Gabriel Buono's house is very tasteful. There's a lot of them, and it depends on the builder sometimes that they don't build them that well.
Yeah, but I
So they
think
kind of
this
look
is-
crappy.
I don't know.
I think we need to look at
I-
setbacks.
So let's look
agree
let's
with
let's
Isaac.
look at it. Let's have Michael come up with some examples of other municipalities.
Maybe for the
and
next
let's for next meeting, okay? Mike? All right.
Without losing
So
the
we-
value of the
we-
property,
You
we
believe
almost have to
that,
see whether or not it's allowed for additional extra height.
All right, let's leave it.
gonna comment.
Let's leave it.
Better you than me.
All right, so we're
Better you
gonna,
than me, man.
I think they're doing what they believe they can do under our code, and I sense a lot of frustration many times.
Yeah.
They're very
They
critical.
we asked them many times
I know,
to.
I'm not getting this.
Not that many, just a few.
Mike will come back.
He's gonna come back. All right, can I get a motion? Have a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, we're adjourned at 8:37 PM. I got